Big question on every seller's mind is, well, what if I don't get all of my equity? The market is balancing out. It's going more in the buyer's favor. What happens if I lose some of my equity? Well, it really depends on how you define equity, right? If you're defining equity based on the amount your neighbor just got 3 months ago in the hot craziness of the spring market we just had, and they got $50,000 over what anybody in the neighborhood has ever gotten, then probably no, you will not get that equity, because remember, the competition has reduced significantly. So you're not going to have as many buyers trying to come to the table and pushing that offer price higher and higher and higher. And so odds are you may not get that price that they got 3 months ago, but that should not be your level of what is the normal equity in a neighborhood. We really need to think about what are the trends over the course of several years. Where is that equity sitting? Because realistically, someone might be willing to come in and pay you $50,000 less than what they paid that person, but is that still a really healthy amount of equity for you? Because maybe you're still pocketing 200 grand of equity. Yeah, it stinks you couldn't walk out with 250 grand of equity. I would want that for you too. That would be amazing. But realistically, since the market is cooling off, we can't all expect to get what our neighbors just got a few months ago when the market was chaotic. We have to go back to measuring the trends over the course of a longer amount of time and realizing, okay, this is actually normal. This is the normal amount of equity that my home stands to make. And that's what we base our goals and stuff off of. So if you're looking at buying a new home that is going to require $200,000 to be pumped into it in order to make it work for you, well then let's make sure we're targeting that number as our primary goal, $200,000, instead of shooting for the moon and saying, man, well, I need $300,000 of equity and let's just see if it works, because odds are this is not the market for that. If you want to make absolute top dollar beyond what anybody else in your neighborhood has ever made, this season probably isn't the best one to do that in. Maybe next season, maybe in the spring of next year, it will boost up again. Maybe the Fed will lower interest rates and it's just all going to come unraveled again. That could be. We don't know. This isn't the market to do that in, though. Right now is the market to measure the trends that we've seen over the past few years and see, man, we've gained a lot of equity. Are we safe in assuming we can make this much in order for you to make that transition? And that's how we'll set our goals up right now. So let me run through really quickly the 3 most common strategies to pull off this both selling and buying at the same time process. The first of these strategies is to list before you purchase. This is the one that is probably safest of all the options, because basically you are cashing out your equity and you have all of that in hand ready to go for a purchase. This is going to be easy for buyers that are really flexible. Maybe you don't have families and kids to deal with, and so you can just sell your home and then rent for a little while, or stay with family for a little while or something while you're looking for your new home. So this makes you ultra flexible. It keeps any contingencies from coming into play, so you don't have to worry about any sale falling through before you purchase, and you get to purchase scot-free. You're ready to go. The second strategy is to list while you are looking to purchase. Basically, you're doing both simultaneously at the same time. This strategy tends to work a little better for families, but it does have some drawbacks that are pretty heavy. So if you basically list your home up for sale and then you start looking, at least you can present an offer on a house saying, hey, I'm actively listed, I'm trying to get this done, and so therefore my contingency is a little less risky, right? It's much easier to get contingencies accepted in this market, but that doesn't necessarily mean they always work. It's still a challenge. Because if a buyer comes to the table that does not have a contingency, they're automatically going to trump you, and any seller is going to see it that way. So you need to be strategic here and try to get yours listed and under contract if possible before presenting an offer on another home. That's going to make your contingency less risky for the seller, and hopefully will help you have a stronger position to contract on a house out in the market. So works better for families, like I said, because this does not involve multiple moves. You're not moving into a short-term rental for a little while. Basically, you're allowing yourself to just make the jump into the new home if it works out smoothly. But the biggest drawback is this ties you to a tight timeline. So hypothetically, if you get under contract on your listing and then you go and contract the next day, perfect case scenario, on another house, well, now you have a limited amount of time to make this work. If it doesn't work, then you've already committed to selling your home. You can't back out of that. As a seller, you are obligated to move forward with that. And if you say, I don't want to sell anymore, odds are the buyer will want all of their money back, maybe even plus damages. They can take you to court over that because it's considered a breach of contract. So it's not something you can kind of play with willy-nilly here. If you agree to sell it, you agree to sell it. Like you're saying, I'm going to go through with it. Another issue that might come up is you might get under contract. They want a 30-day close. Now you're looking, but you can't find the home that you want. And so now you're tied to a tight contract. And unfortunately, if you're going to do this route, this strategy, you need to have some contingency plans, some backup options related to living situations. You might have to do a short-term rental or stay with family for a little while. That's worst case scenario, but that is something you kind of have lined up just in case it doesn't work out like you want it to. So I've helped a lot of folks do this recently. It is totally possible, but it's a little bit risky, and it's important you know that. The third option has been a completely non-existent option in this market over the past few years, but you can, in this market, sometimes list after you purchase. Basically, you present an offer to a seller and say to them, hey, I want to buy your house, but first I have to sell my house and I haven't listed it yet. So you kind of get under contract, you get a seller to agree to that contract, then you go about the process of listing your current home. This can work. It's more possible in this market than it has been in a really long time. But at the same time, it's also a very rare thing to get a seller to work with this offer or this type of position. And so we might have to shop around for a while to make this option work. It's much safer than the other option, which is basically list first, then start looking to buy, because you're not bound to sell in that situation. You can be a little more fluid. You can kind of wait until the right thing comes up. And if it works out, okay, now I will sell my home. It's a great option for families because it provides a lot of security. You don't have to lose a home in order to gain a home. But the reality is we're gonna have to shop around a lot. We're gonna have to talk to a lot of sellers and maybe go through a lot of losses in order to find a seller that's willing to work with this option. Probably better case of this working out would be heading towards the fringes of Raleigh, maybe even crossing outside of Wake County into some of the surrounding counties where the markets just move a little slower. We might have a better shot at getting that kind of contingency accepted there because they may have been on the market for a month or two and just need someone to work with them, someone to bring them something. So it's possible, could work out, but fairly rare in our market, and it's a great option for security, basically. But remember, of course, if you get under contract on the house you're buying, they agree to the contingency, then you list your home and get that under contract. Well, now you've kind of created a contingency train, right? You have to complete this thing, or else it's going to fall apart and you won't be able to make your new purchase maybe because your other home is not sold, or maybe you decide I don't want that home anymore. Well, now you've already got somebody under contract on your other home. So you can see it just gets really complicated. You have to be really sure I'm going to move forward with this purchase before listing your home in order to make that work out. And the seller is going to have to be willing to work with all of those issues and timelines and stuff like that. So another great option, very safe for families to do that option, but would be much harder to get it to work out. Worth noting that in both of those last two options, the biggest risk in those scenarios is you may have a contract fall through. If someone contracts on your house that you're trying to sell and they back out, that puts you in jeopardy of losing money on the buyer side of the contract when you're purchasing a house, because you may no longer qualify if someone is not purchasing your old house. So contingencies are always risky in that sense. We'll need to be very careful how we position you if you're getting under contract on a new house to not be so crazy risky with what you're putting out there in order to contract on that, and feeling confident about the buyer that's purchasing your house, that they're going to go through, that there's no flakiness there's no concern about them walking away from you, because that will destroy your new purchase if they do. So we've got to be cautious, we've got to be careful, and we've got to execute the right strategy there to make sure everything is safe, that we can make this work. Regardless of which strategy you choose, this is still probably one of the best times in the market. We've seen it a long time to pull off this switch from doing both selling and buying at the same time. When it's a balanced market, it just makes sense. It's easier for you to accomplish both of these things at the same time. It's actually a benefit to you that everything's moving a little slower because it helps these overlaps work out a little better. And sellers are typically more willing to work with buyers that need more time to close on things because there's just less competition. So it allows them to be just more open to working with those contingencies and making it work for your sale and your purchase simultaneously. So great time to be thinking about this, guys. If you have any more questions about this specific topic of both selling and buying at the same time, I would love to talk with you more about it. Would love to talk with how we've made that successful for a lot of folks this spring and even into the summer. And yeah, let's just chat. Let's answer some of your questions. Let's figure out if this is the right time for you. I'm more than happy to say, no, you know what, your goals that you're talking about, let's just wait. Let's see how this pans out. Or if I think, man, no, this is the right time, we got to jump in, we got to do this, we'll talk about that too. So anyways, reach out. You got my information down below. I would love to chat with you if you're in this ballpark and you're thinking this might be the right time for me. All right, guys, stay tuned. Got some more great content coming for you soon. I think I'm going to put one together relatively soon that just talks more about some upgrades and things that you can put into your current home in order to get the most equity out of it, and things I would recommend not putting into your home. So stay tuned. I'm going to try to drop that one next week. So hopefully we can get some great information to your hands then. All right, guys, talk to you later.